You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast brought to you by focus-biz.com.
In the same way that our spines are the backbone to our body, our next guest, Dr. Richard Kaye, claims that PR should be the backbone of our marketing and advertising strategy. We'll be talking about the tips and tricks on how you can grow your business and what brought Richard to where he is today. Richard, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, let's go have some fun, Chris.
That's what I'm talking about. I love it. So, Dr. Kaye, tell me more about your past experience and where that brought you to today. I saw that you were a successful, you owned a thriving chiropractic office. And then, tell me more about that and what brought you to where you are today.
Fortune. Quite frankly, I was meditating one day in the Reader's Digest version, and I heard, shut your office and work with entrepreneurs. Shit, there's no one here. 3 weeks later, Chris, I shut down a very wonderful practice in San Diego. I live in Taos, New Mexico now. I already owned 80 acres, drove out here, took time off, said, can't retire, and started serving entrepreneurs. So it was an interesting, where'd that come from kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. So, was this like a metaphorical voice? Was it a voice inside your head? Was it something literally audible? You could hear from another room that said that?
It was audible inside my head because I turned around and there was nobody there. So I said, oh, this is interesting. However we assign these things, but I chose to listen. And ladies and gentlemen, when you hear those kinds of things, listen to them. Profound transformation in life.
Wow, that's incredible. So now, for the past 25 years or so, you've been helping business owners kind of take their marketing strategy to the next level with a focus on PR. Now, I know within marketing and advertising and PR, sometimes we kind of lump those terms together and they're used synonymously, but they are separate. Can you go into detail about the differences between those?
Yeah, let's make a distinction. PR, everyone knows, is public relations. Is it effective? Amazingly so. There's a gazillion PR firms in the country. What it is, either you or you pay somebody to make phone calls or send out press releases. Then you pray to God, someone's going to say, I want what you're talking about. That's a crapshoot. It works. Nothing wrong with it. Marketing is letting people know that you're out there. That's putting a sign up, in the for sale bin or whatever, or a sign in your window. The distinction, Chris, what we do is publicity. And let's talk about that. Publicity, for example, is getting you your credibility. I'm going to give you a short story about my history so our audience can understand. I drove from New York to San Diego to start a chiropractic practice. 300 chiropractors in San Diego. Yeah. How do you start or grow a business in a crowded field? Well, I got myself on a morning television talk show, turned that into being invited back every month for about a year. Got an article in the San Diego Tribune, color pictures. Got an article in the Los Angeles Times with color pictures. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's the pivot point, and here's what's exciting. One day I get a phone call from the producer of the ABC News in San Diego. In essence, she said, who are you? We're hearing about you. We're seeing you. Well, now I've got a 6:30 news segment. Yeah. Shortly after that, I got a similar phone call from a PBS producer. Who are you? We're seeing you. We're hearing about you. Well, now I got a PBS segment about me. Chris, that's what publicity is. I was no longer just another one of 300. At the time, I was probably the most visible chiropractor in the county. Chris, that's what grows business. That adds to credibility. Now, it's not, hey, come and see me. It's, I choose you. And that's where we get people today. I choose you. This past weekend, we were at a conference in Denver. One of the things that we do is get people best-selling books. And just, ladies and gentlemen, to give you an idea, a few short years ago, there were 30 to 40 books released every single month. Today, there are 7,500 books released every single day. How do you stand out from the crowd? Well, at this conference, it was not our conference. We were presenting at another conference. We were invited there. We introduced one of our newer authors. Her book sold 217 copies within a couple of hours. Now, if your name is John Connolly or Michael Patterson, or John Grisham. That may not mean a lot, but to a new author, that's credibility. That's what we do for people. We get you on stages, we get you on magazines, get you featured in USA Today, get you stories written about you or by you in the Los Angeles Tribune. That's publicity. That enhances your credibility. That's the distinction.
Wow, that's so powerful. And I think as entrepreneurs and business owners, we are just fighting for visibility. We are
Yes.
constantly competing with our competitors, obviously, to, say, hey, choose me, pick me, look at me. That's got to be tough to try to stand out from that. But to flip that on its head and become the authoritative industry leader where people now are reaching out to you because they saw you, they want you, they trust you now. You got that credibility. And that's tough for us to stand out in that crowded space like that.
It is. And that's the distinction. We are all making decisions every moment. And when you're looking for a provider, whether it's HVAC, heating, ventilating, air conditioning, a chiropractor, a speaker for an event, a guest for a program, you want people to say, I choose you. And you must stand out from the crowd. And that's what publicity does.
Wow.
A book, for example, gets you access. Now, many people do what are called compilation books. We do them too. We're more interested in you as an individual having your own book. My wife's first two books, I believe, were compilation books. And it's great to say I'm an internationally renowned best-selling author, along with 42 other people in the book. It works. When she was living in the UK when we met on a networking event, she had spent, Chris, over $200,000 trying to get her message out to the world. She writes fairy tales. So kids, they're based on kids developing their own emotional stability and integrity so they don't go shoot up schools, kill people. 200 grand. She came to our company and then we met and got married. She's now, I laugh because last weekend when we were in Denver, I was talking about her, which I do a lot. And I said, she's won 6 awards. She says, honey, it's now 8. I said, and I thought, that's great. #1 best-selling author. And I'm using her as a metaphor, Chris. But what happens is people are now calling her and saying, we'd like you to write an article for us. She's a columnist for the Los Angeles Tribune. The television program called her and said, we'd like you to co-host with us. University called her and said, same thing. Who are you? We're hearing about you. Languages there. Well, she's now adjunct faculty at University of New Mexico. What does that do for her credibility when she says, I want to be on your program? Or they call her, hey, you're a people want you, ladies and gentlemen, when you have this kind of credibility.
Yes.
It's exciting. It's fun.
Oh, so exciting. And it finally puts the leverage in your position. Like you finally have that leverage
Yes.
where that credibility is much higher, where people are now seeking you out.
Yes. Everyone's heard of Deepak Chopra. You know who he is, yes? He, when I lived in a place called in La Costa in Southern California, his clinic was right across the golf course. And someone told me that he once said, I don't do anything much differently than any other Ayurvedic physician. I just got great publicity. That was my wake-up call. Like, hello? Yeah, that's the key.
Isn't it incredible? The answers are sometimes always in front of us, and maybe they're present for a few years, and we just don't give them the time of day and really realize the power behind them and say, okay, that aha moment, this is what I need. This is what's going to get me to the next level.
Yes. And we're all looking for that. How can I stand out from the crowd? How can I go to the next level? I literally an hour ago was on another podcast and we were talking about stuff. And I don't remember the question, but it talked about that next level. The fastest way to grow yourself as a person, my hallucination, Chris, is the people who are watching, listening to you are interested in that. And the fastest way to do that is grow your business. It's who you have to be to show up to maintain the business and grow it.
Yes.
So, yeah, ladies,
Wow.
you got it all right here with Chris.
Literally, we just had a breakthrough. We're only 12 minutes into the episode, and here Richard just lays it out all for us. This is what you need to do. These are the next steps. Get some publicity. Get your name out there.
Absolutely.
Wow. So now how do we, once we finally start that process and maybe we become, an author, we put a book out there, or we start writing articles, or we get that appearance on a podcast or a TV show, how do we then start leveraging that within our daily lives and business? Do we start adding little podcast links or article links at the bottom of our emails to reinforce that? Because some people might not find out about that until later. Or is that not the audience we're trying to direct that to? Is it more about the publicists and the people who are in those other positions that we need to reach out to?
It's a good question, a great question. I'll tell you why I say that. It depends on your audience. If you are seeking to get on more podcasts, put links, nobody will listen to them, but put links, to the podcast that you've been on. And I'll give you a real-time example. My wife is a columnist for the Los Angeles Tribune. She's been featured in USA Today. She's been written about in Authority magazine and God knows how many others. And this morning, earlier today, she was sending out inquiries to magazines who will pay her more money to be a columnist to write articles. And what she did is she said, here's a link to the USA article. Here's a link to some of my articles in the Tribune. Here's my link. Here's my link. Here's my link. Again, whether they look at them or not, it's like, holy shit, this lady really does this stuff. It's not like someone off the street saying, pay me to write an article. That's if you're looking to be, and these people just don't know who she is yet. Otherwise, they'd come to her. If
Right.
you're looking for clients, you can list a few of them. I have a link on my website where you may see Dr. Kaye. It's articles in the USA Today. It's articles in this. It's pictures of me on a stage or aesthetic. We all want to know that the person with whom we want to do business is out there. There are too many business who are hiding. At this conference last week, everybody exchanges business cards. Yes, some people still do that. I still have business cards. I'm looking through them, and I kid you not, I needed a magnifying glass, there it is, to read some of the cards. They got their email addresses in what's called 4-point type. You obviously know what that is. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're reading books or magazines, that's typical 11 or 12-point type. It's just the height of it. 4-point type, you need a magnifying glass to see. Why are you hiding? So
What's the point of a business card if no one
what's
can
the
read the
point of a business?
information?
Yeah. So, and I just tie that into the awareness and publicity. Some of them I couldn't even tell what their business is, which takes us to another point, Chris. Your message must be clear. A young man I was coaching this morning, he asked me to call him from that networking event, and really clear. He wasn't ready for our services. And he's just starting to do things like this podcast. And I said, may I mentor you in how to do these, how to get on them? And he said, yeah, I know. I always usurp the whole conversation. So we talked about that. And to talk in sound bites so you can get stuff and not use 4-point type.
It's so important that communication practice about creating a very clear and concise message is very important. And even though I know the importance, I struggle with it as many other entrepreneurs do. But I think what you mentioned as more of a focus is being able to create those sound bites where you can repurpose that content for later. Similar to, podcasting, what we'll be doing is also repurposing some of this content to grab those sound bites. So that way we can highlight you as entrepreneurs, highlight us as hosts, and it makes great content. People like the shorter form content, something quick, get to the point, show me why this is important, and then there you can run with it. People are more likely to watch a 30-second sound bite as opposed to a 30-minute episode.
And there's another thing, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll be totally transparent. When I pitched Chris about my being a guest here, I didn't tell him what I do as much as I told him what you as the audience is going to get out of it. And he made a very wise decision. He says, come on. The point here is no one cares what you do. They don't care. We all think we're important. The only thing you care about, when you say I choose you, is because I believe that you can serve me in some way or another. So when you're pitching anybody, even a date, if you're still in that arena, don't tell them how wonderful you are. Show them. What are they going to get out of hanging out with you? So, but, more appropriate, what is the audience? What is the potential client going to get by choosing you? That's what you want to know. What do you
Yes.
want them to know?
That is so important, and something that we overlook way too often
Mm.
is we try to focus on the features and benefits, the what can we do, as
Yeah.
opposed to what you're going to get out of it, aka the outcome. You have to
Yes.
focus on the outcome so people can envision what the end result will look like. What are the objectives? At the end of the day, this is the life or the podcast or whatever I want out of this.
Hmm.
We focus too much on those features, benefits, what we can do as opposed to that outcome. How
Yeah.
how important that could be to shift our strategy. You could start getting invited into more podcasts, welcome back more often. That's, the importance of the pitch. And this isn't just person to person communication. This is through email. This is phone. I mean, anything where you can get to the point, be more clear and
Hmm.
concise, and actually focus on the outcomes as opposed to, hey, this is who I am and what I do. People don't care, right?
They don't care. And as metaphor I use, when you get on an airplane, you remember those days? Yeah, when you get an airplane, you don't care if the engines are Boeing, Briggs and Stratton. You don't care. You want to know, is it going to take off, fly, and get you to your destination? That's all you care about.
Absolutely. You're like, can I get to this destination? What is the outcome? It doesn't matter how are you gonna get there with the tools, just get me
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Even though I have some experience in podcasting, I've been able to be a guest on some and host this show. Radio is a little bit different. It's something I haven't delved into before. Are there any big differences between the podcasting or radios and how do we actually get featured on some sort of radio show?
Okay. I love the question. It's one of the things I teach. Chris, what size city do you live in? Big or small?
I'd say biggish to medium. It's about 500,000, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay. Where I live, there are 5,000. So, ladies and gentlemen, particularly Chris, because you asked, you got talk radio up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Watch this. A typical talk radio program is 3 hours, requires three guests an hour. Okay. That's nine guests. Typically, these talk radio programs have maybe three or four talk shows a day. Let's just say three. Follow the math here. 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, allowing that 2 weeks vacation. That's 6,750 guests every single year they need, Chris.
Wow. And I imagine they don't want to be inviting that same guest back and back because the stories are going to get old. You want something fresh.
They need you more than you need them. Now, the question becomes, how do you pitch them? When I started pitching radio way back then, I don't know if you're old enough to remember the yellow pages.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to look through those.
Yeah. I used to go through yellow pages, and Chris, nobody wants to pitch. You do not pitch the host unless it's a podcast where, it's a single or, wherever your partner is today. We get to do this together. Adam somewhere else. But in radio and television, it's not the host that you pitch. You find the producer. Now, how do you find the producer? It's called the internet. You go in, listen to the shows, find a show that you resonate with. Now, even though he's dead, you can't pitch a Rush Limbaugh. It's not an audience for any of us. Well, he never had guests, but you get the point. If you're a Democrat, unless you don't pitch Republicans. If you're a Republican, you don't pitch Democrat. And yet, in between there, that can work because what you want to do is create controversy, depending on the nature of the show. My colleagues, one of his myriad books is he refuses to pay for his kids' college education. Well, it's controversial. Got him on Fox and Newsmax and all of them. But let's talk real time. So you send them an email and you tell them why you are the guest they want. As a matter of fact, Chris, I'm going to give your audience something. I don't know if I sent this to you. I have something called the top 10 reasons people listen to Dr. Richard Kaye. And I'm going to give it to your guest. The URL is Richard Kaye, RICHARD KAYE.com/top 10 reasons. No punctuation, top 10 reasons. richardk.com/top 10 reasons. I may have sent this to you, and it says to the host, this is why people listen to me. Now, when people start out, they may only have 4. So you do the top 4 reasons people listen to you. Now, I have a one sheet and I have a video because today we're video. And the video is, I don't know, about 30 seconds, like you said. So you're so right on it. It's short. This says to the producer, oh, I got someone here who can, what? There's no audio, so you can't tell if I articulate or not. But it gives where I've been. It says that I've taught in Russia and Japan and I don't remember where, in Australia. And it says I've got PBS and I got Forbes. What does it say to an event producer? Oh, I got someone I at least want to explore with. And then my CV, my resume is there and pictures people can use. And here's another thing when you want to be on a program, particularly radio, sometimes webinars and podcasts. Your job is to make it easy for the host. If you have a book and they're interested, send them the book. Most people, I used to do that years ago in my book, The Secrets of Creating Customers for Life. I don't do that anymore. This is a lot less expensive to send out. And particularly if it's radio, I'll send a couple of questions along. You want to make it so easy for the host. And ladies and gentlemen, before we started this live part, I said to Chris, take this wherever you want. But he had at least 4 questions that he knew we could default to. So he doesn't have to do research. You want to make it easy for them, whoever the them is. So, get yourself a copy of that. It's a template. You want to use it, great. It'll make it easy for you to go. Just remember, talk radio, on average, almost 7,000 guests a year. They need you. They're looking for you. Learn how to speak. Learn how to be articulate. Answer, again, as we said, in sound bites. And someone saying, yeah, but you're just talking here. Because I'm giving you a wealth of information. And we don't have, there was Ben Franklin who said, if you wanted a shorter letter, you should have given me more time, right? I'm giving you a wealth of information. And later I'll give you the way to get in touch with me because I'll be glad to mentor and coach you on any of this stuff. Your answers, I want you to observe what Chris, is this video or is this podcast, Chris?
This is going to be both potentially. So we start with audio and then we'll use some video later potentially as long as the guest is okay with it.
Okay, I'm fine with it. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to watch Chris through this whole thing. He's not out here. Hey, Richard, how you doing? He's right here in the camera. When you're live, you look at the guest, at the host, or you look at the camera. Too many people, this is good. I can talk about, you got to make connection. You got to be present with people and have fun.
Yes.
Have fun.
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to touch on a couple of things that you mentioned just earlier now, and because I think it's so important. One is making it easy. I tell people all the time, you have to remove the friction within the buyer's journey, within that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-answer questions. Give them the information, the links, the videos, whatever information they need to make an informed decision about you. Make it easy for them. Don't make them search for it. Don't make them think.
Mm-hmm.
It shows that you're prepared. Another one is, you mentioned Rush Limbaugh, and I'm so disappointed that Adam couldn't be here for this one because he does a really, really good Rush Limbaugh impression. He comes out, he's like, the liberals are at it again. The time is 4:15. And then he just goes from there. I was like, man, this is perfect.
There you go.
It was great. But again, being an engaged listener, an engaged communicator, so important. I've seen many other people who just disengage from conversations. And I don't know if it's because they feel there's nothing important enough that they're going to learn, or if that's just their communication style and they have trouble staying focused. But I think that's so important for building relationships, businesses, and communication. Just undivided attention. Speak to me. We're having conversations. We're having fun. Why wouldn't I give you this attention? I mean, there's nothing more important to my left or right that I would want to steer away from this conversation. So much good information that I want to stay tuned for. I literally listen to this after to edit it so I can relearn everything that I've done already.
Well, some people find the ceiling or their shoes interesting. If anyone were to call me, because you use this exact expression, undivided attention, oh, how many of you have voicemails that drone on and on and on, and you tell the special of the week and the time of the day and the founder of the company and the date you create, so nobody cares. In today's culture, we're one click away, whether it's your website. Oh, let's cue into this. Make it easy, because you talked about make it easy. How many of you have websites where someone can't get in touch with you? Oh, they can fill out a form and they get an autoresponder, and then they pray to God you're going to call them back. Put your phone number on there and an email address. Chris, you said it perfectly. Make it so easy, because one click, if they don't hear from you within 9.5 seconds, it's the next. If someone were to call me, my voicemail very simply says, "You've reached Dr. Richard Kaye. When you leave your message, even if you think I have it, please leave your telephone number with the area code, and here's what triggered it. I'll get back to you as soon as I can give you my undivided attention." I borrowed that from somebody. Feel free. I'll call you. I'll call you when I have time. Yeah, thanks. I'm not that important.
It makes it sound a lot more important when you say my undivided attention. Like, wow, he's going to set us.
Someone called me a little while ago, just before we started, and I said, first thing I need to let you know, Jason, is I got a hard stop. Let people know that they have your attention. You're focused on them. Anyway, yeah, so it's a lost art, but we're rebuilding it. We're raising to the second tier of consciousness, and people are becoming more awake.
That's important too. We need to reflect inwards and look at ourselves and what we're doing, what we could improve, and specifically our communication. I feel like we just don't know how to communicate anymore. And I don't know if that was, something that happened after COVID, but everyone kind of seems on edge and just not as pleasant as they were before. And, maybe shorter attention spans thanks to TikTok and videos in general. But again, we're just trying to get our message across and make sure it's received by the listener. It doesn't matter what we want to get off our chest, our feelings. We need to make sure that we are getting the outcome by delivering the right message to that audience.
And you said something important, and I'm just going to turn it around. It's to make sure that it's received. I'm going to play a little game with you, Chris. And when I'm on stage, I will do this with an audience, because you're talking about the clarity of the message. If I say I have 26 sheep and one dies, how many sheep do I have?
You have 26.
Okay, 26 sheep and one dies. How many sheep do I have?
26.
Okay, I'm going to say it again. If I got 26 sheep and one dies, how many sheep do I have?
Oh, I'm sorry. One dies. I'm sorry. I thought you were referring to like a die, like a roll of die.
Okay.
26. That would be 20. You have 25 alive sheep and one dead sheep.
Okay. Because you're a nice guy, and again, I do this with hundreds of people in the audience, I'm going to say this real slowly. I have 20 sick sheep. Guess what? I know exactly what you heard, because all of us in the audience, the first, shit. Okay. But here's the point, ladies and gentlemen. Is it my responsibility or yours? It's my responsibility as the person speaking to help you receive the message as I intended. How many of us go through stuff? And let's go back to webinars and podcasts and television and radio. Avoid at all costs big words. When you use a word that someone doesn't understand, you've lost them for the next 30 to 60 seconds. What does that mean? Do I have anything to tag it to? So they're gone. If you must use a big word because you're smart, explain it. And I'll give you an example. When I used to practice chiropractic and give what we called an orientation lecture to the patient, a talk to explain to them what's going on, would look at the x-rays and say, Mildred, you have a subluxation. And their eyes glaze over. What that means is a vertebra, a bone out of position, putting pressure on a nerve. So now I've taken the mystery away, added to their vocabulary, demonstrated I know what a thing is, and now they have more of an awareness of what it's about. So if you must use a big word, explain it immediately or use a simpler word.
That's brilliant. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
I love it.
Break it down to the lowest common denominator.
Now, with all the business owners that you've consulted with and shared your tips and tricks with, are there certain industries that you feel like you align with best? Is it for everyone? Or can you give me some of the characteristics about some of the businesses or entrepreneurs that you coach and help?
We want to work with people who want to make contribution to humanity. When I was with this other company and doing exclusively business growth, and now it's morphed into the publicity, obviously I interview people. And if someone says, when I ask them what their long-term goal is, "Oh, I want to go to Tahiti and drink margaritas all day," not a particularly interesting client. Nothing wrong with that. I want to work with people who want to serve humanity. And the reward is, that's not an end game though. People who are passionate about what they do, people who have a desire who know it's going to take work. There's no, and it's done. It takes months. There are seminars you can take. Write a book in a weekend or write a book in 30 minutes. Yeah, well, you can use AI and that crap sucks. It'll never give you something that's really good. Well, I shouldn't say never. These days, it can't. There's a lot of work into it. The people with whom I work with, our company works. The name of the company is Top Talent Agency. It's toptagency.com is the domain, toptagency.com. And you'll see magazines and Newsweek, Forbes, and USA Today's and newspapers and gazillion books. People who look at that and say, I want to achieve that, but not just because I want to be on the cover of Newsweek, because I have something I'm passionate about that can help humanity grow. The woman whose book we just released, her story, she wasn't until she did a medicine plant journey that she realized how seriously sexually abused she was. And it came out, and now she's passionate about helping people understand there are real things as repressed memories. And her thing is using plant medicine as a way to get through it. You recognize it and go through it. And that means ayahuasca for people who don't know what the plant medicine is.
Because they would have tried many other plants before
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
Like, why isn't it working?
Yeah. So she's really committed to helping, particularly women. There are men too. So our ideal client is someone who knows they're going to work, they're going to be handheld, and they're willing to take leadership. And because we don't need it. We want them to be out there. And from a business perspective, if I don't feel we can serve someone, I don't want them as a client. I don't want someone, it's like you. I don't want you going out and saying, that was the worst interview I've ever done. We want clients who are going to go out and say, like my wife, and she says it, I spent $200,000, nothing. Now I'm a fairly famous author and it's still growing. That's the kind of client, because we know we can serve them. We know they're viable and valuable in what their message is.
Yes, absolutely. In business, especially when we're starting out, we feel like we have to get every single sale that we can, and we'll do anything we can, whether even if that includes, fibbing some things or lying or misleading someone. And unfortunately, that does not create a medium or long-term successful business at all. That's going to hurt your reputation. You're going to have an unhappy client. Now you have a potential bad review that's coming down the pipeline. Now they're going to tell 10 people about their negative experience with you. And
Yes.
that is going to be way worse than that short term, the short-sighted, I need this money right now. It's better to let them go and say, we're not the right fit.
Yes.
Maybe you can provide them some free resources, maybe get them to do some DIY stuff until they get to that next level.
Mhm.
But if things aren't aligned together, it's just not a good business practice to take on that client.
Yeah, it comes from scarcity. You're 100% right. Another thing I've done is I've written a book called The Secrets of Creating Customers for Life. And ladies and gentlemen, you can just Google that. It's on Amazon.
I think I want that one. I'm going to get that one.
Secrets of Creating Customers for Life. And what that's about is taking from a suspect. In my world, everyone's a suspect. to a prospect, which means there's a possibility, to a client, and turn them into raving fans. So I've just given a little bit more language to the journey that you talked about. You turn them into raving fans. They'll help you grow your business. That's the best kind of publicity.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, everyone wants testimonials. Get video testimonials these days. And for God's sakes, don't get 30-minute video testimonials. Chris, you spoke to it so beautifully, 30 seconds. And don't edit them. Get a clean take. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever seen a video testimonial where someone's looking here and then they're looking, you wonder what was cut out of it.
Right.
Get a good clean take, 30, 40 seconds. Yeah, it's good.
No, so important. One of the biggest, factors for growth between my wedding DJ business, I started that 9 years ago, was the power of the reviews and the referrals.
Yes.
Those, I can't tell you that it has dropped my cost per customer acquisition from $80 down to $25. And
Wow.
those are real life stats that show the power behind the reviews and the referral marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the time I get another request for a quote, or can you do this? And they say I was referred by this, or I was a guest at this. And it's like, wow, when you do a great job, when you have purpose behind what you're doing and you just give it 110%, people take notice of that, and
You bet they
and then
do.
they want to work with you. And we need to apply that in everyday life and our businesses and other businesses.
Yeah. And we just so much. We have another program about qualified lead generation. For a very affordable, inexpensive fee, people can get good qualified leads. We're calling it Angie's List. It's not affiliated with Angie's List, but it's Angie's List for leads. And I'll send some information to you, Chris. You can take a look at that too.
Please do. That would be wonderful. And I
Yeah.
know others would be interested as well. So anything that Richard shares with me, I'm going to provide links down in the description of the podcast and video. In addition, I might toss it on the website. If I put your pretty face on there, I'm going to make sure that we put the helpful links in there, because all this content is really helpful for entrepreneurs and business owners. We kind of get into this phase of where we feel like we just need to learn one more thing. There has to be one more secret out there that's going to unlock the next thing. And there's a little bit of truth to that. But I think once you learn information, the most important next step is taking action from it.
And I want to build on that. Chris, everybody listening, you've heard it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? There's another level to that. It's who knows you. That's much more important. That's how we can accomplish the things that we can accomplish, because it's who knows us. And I just had a phone call before you. I said, the guy called me. He's a PR firm. And he says, well, but you can get people on television. You get them on NASDAQ television, interviewed at the NASDAQ studios. He says, how do I do that? I said, well, they know us. How do we get them in USA Today? They know us. I could go on and on. They know us. I know who the president of the United States is, not to get political. I don't care if you like him or hate him, but he hasn't a clue who I am. So it's who knows you. And that's part of what networking is about. That's part of what sharing. Now, some of you out there, you know me, you know Chris, you know the two of us. Whether you choose to take action and hire him as a wedding DJ, sorry, been there, done that. No, we're married, very happy. Can't
Congratulations.
do that. Yeah. And it's about building relations. The relationship is important. So you want more people to know you, the publicity, which builds your credibility. And then they say, I choose you.
I love it. Now, Richard, for those who have been listening and really love everything that you're saying, after they implement these tips and tricks for themselves, or they just want to take that shortcut and work with you directly right away, where can people find out more about you and what you do? How can they get in contact with you?
I know Chris will put it in the show notes, giving you time to get a pen or your keypad. Talkaboutpublicity.com. All one word, no punctuation. Talkaboutpublicity.com. Takes you to my calendar link. Set up a time. Let's explore how I may serve you. Whether it's creating customers for life, whether it's getting leads, whether it's getting publicity. See, they're all part of the same ball of wax. It's all part of the same thing. It's building your business so you can serve more people.
I love it. And I think we're all looking to do that, build our business. build ourselves, get our names out there, and get noticed and found in an increasingly competitive world. It's tough, but there's ways to get through it. Richard, I appreciate all of the advice and the great conversation here. Thanks so much. We'll have all the links down in the description available for you to check out. Richard, thanks again for coming. We appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, Chris. Thank you.